who sees, the issues that we continue to see in BPS, BPD, Boston Fire Department,
Right.
within City Hall
Right.
as an umbrella that covers everything from employment, housing, education, um, transportation, public safety. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. These are compounding issues that, by the time we deal with one, there's 150 that just arises.
Right.
We have new issues now with traffic in Boston because bike lanes were inserted. The city gave some input, the community gave some input, but there was no real dialect going across the table on suggestions that we want along with what the city wants to do. So again, this campaign is for the people. We're asking for volunteers. We're asking for donations. We're asking for support because we want you to be a part of this. We don't want you just to door knock. We want you to be a part of something where you're actually putting in some of your input, and we'll use it.
Right.
We'll go out there and use what your inputs are versus just having you be a foot soldier.
Right. So you can unmute yourself. Go ahead, Mr. Thomas.
Triggers not trade. Triggers not trades, right?
Okay.
I don't have to ask candidate Domingos DaRosa any questions, but I have some comments.
Sure, go ahead.
To what he's saying.
Okay.
I'm about the trades and 18+ billion in new construction. Before then, it was the big dig.
Right.
By supporting a candidate and having a person like Domingos DaRosa in the city council chambers, know and I believe, but more so I know he would be an individual that will stand up and fight for everyone to have an equal opportunity, especially when you have Boston 18 billion plus in new construction. I know he would be an individual that will stand up there, even if he's only elected for one term. But I know that one term, he would make it count and he would stand up and go against the status quo and fight for what's right is right.
Right.
Transparency and inclusiveness. I know he would be a person. I also know he would be a person that would not hesitate to speak on things like the abuse of what has been happening on our streets with the needles.
Right.
These young kids and these babies are being exposed and getting so close to being contaminated and exposed to. I also know that he will also stand there and address, like he was saying, public safety.
Right.
And how you can go. I was just in Brookline today and notice that they expanded the streets over there, but in our streets that's more dense, they shrink our streets. And that to me is a problem because it creates more havoc. But I know he would be one of those people. Domingos DaRosa, City Council at Large, will be that person who would not be afraid to really stand up and say, hey, this is wrong.
Right.
This is happening here. Why aren't we getting the same treatment? Why aren't we being treated the same when we vote, when we pay taxes?
Right.
These are the things that I know that this man, Domingos DaRosa, for City Council at Large, will stand for, will speak for, and many more. Also, for good health care. I know he will fight for everyone within Massachusetts.
Right.
Just Dorchester, Roxbury, and Mattapan. I know he believes in fairness. I know he believes that we deserve better.
Right.
Deserve more. I know he believes that, and I know he will fight for it. And that's my 2 little cents that I wanted to add.
Well, since you added your 2 little cents, Mr. Thomas, I'm going to keep you back on the hot seat because my job at not your normal conversation. So I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. Sometimes I play the devil's advocate. Now, just so you know, Domingos is like a brother to me, but I also am a part of the community. So what do you say to the people that thinks that Domingos is way too aggressive?
Those are people who are comfortable and they feel threatened or that he's trying to take something away from that they're entitled to. But I will answer for him. He's not aggressive enough because and you, that's right. That's right.
Woo-wee! Woo
He's
child.
just
It's
biting.
not your normal conversation.
Jacob,
So
did you
listen,
hear
I'm being
this?
real. I understand the brother is being a diplomat, but I know within him, I've seen within him that he's sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Right.
Like the rest of us, he's a voice for the voiceless. So he does not have a problem. You see, I'm a pit bull too, and he would tell you I'm old.
Yeah.
Pit
There's
bull.
people on the live that know you. They're shouting you out, just so you know.
Tell them thank you.
Stacey
That's why
K.
you see the
Borden.
trades, not triggers. That's
Right.
me.
Stacey K. Borden is saying that you're the man. So
Thank you.
Yes, and I know Stacey very well, and she's very much a part of the community. Now I see that Jacob has his hand raised. Jacob, can you come off of mute and you ask a question?
Before we jump on to Jacob, can I just
Sure.
add to what T. Michael Thomas has said?
Of course you can.
Founder of the Poor People's Campaign. I'm a Madison Park alumni.
Yes.
I wish I had more time there. Like if I can go back to 1992 and I had someone who was actually truly advocating for the school and advising me of what I could be and can be because of the opportunities presented at the school. So let's talk about the $2.2 billion in city contracts that 1.2% went to Black businesses, Black and brown businesses in the 5-year span.
Right.
You're looking at a little less than $4 million. So let's talk about a city ordinance, something that I would be able to work on.
Right.
City ordinance says that 51% goes to Bostonian, 40% to Black and browns, 12% women.
Mhm.
So if we take 2.2 billion and cut it in half,
right,
that's $1.1 billion for Blacks and browns to earn 1.2%. This is not new.
Right.
This is not something that just poof out of the air.
Right.
This has been going on since those ordinance was eradicated because they wanted to use it to empower the Black and brown community.
Right.
But again, we elect individuals who speak on these issues, and then when they're elected, crickets.
Yeah, because it's all about being politically correct. They say you don't have enough political background to be running for office. I disagree, because I think that the people who play politics are the people who do nothing once they get into office. And that's not what our communities need, especially the Black and brown community. We don't need somebody to dress the part. We need somebody to be the part. And that's a big problem. And this is the reason why our communities are suffering the way that they are. First of all, because a lot of times Black and brown people don't think that their votes matter at all, which is totally not true. And I feel like at this point, we've been so conditioned to think a certain way about ourselves and our living conditions that we don't think that we need to rise above anything. It's just the way things are supposed to be. I'm here to let everybody know this is not how we're supposed to live. We're not supposed to be in poverty. We're not supposed to be in lack. Those things should not be happening. I'd be happy to buy everybody that's on this live and then some a sweatshirt that says king or queen, because that's exactly what we are. And I feel like we need somebody who's in office who's going to protect our kingdom, because it's not happening. So
can I say something?
Mr. Thomas, can I put you on hold for 1 second?
Sure.
Jacob's had his hand up for a minute. Jacob, can you come off and mute? You have a question for Domingos, or you have something to say? Yeah.
I was just going to follow up with the statement on, him being as transparent and accountable as he is.
Right.
I have a notion that the political atmosphere, when it comes to young millennials who are now being able to vote and who are voting, that's what they want. They want transparency and they want accountability. And it is, the city of Boston has sprinkled through these gatekeepers that keep these political doors closed, that will not accept someone as transparent and accountable as Domingos, and then come to the community and say, well, we can't do anything about any of these issues.
Right.
Domingos has been providing all of these solutions and these things. So I think, we need more candidates to be transparent. We need more candidates to be like Domingos, to, have such a heart connected to the community that I'm going to tell you what it is to your face. I'm not going to tell you behind closed doors. We're not going to get super elaborate because we've been fighting these issues for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And so the time for this diplomacy and this, calmness about these issues is over. We have people on methadone that are suffering day in and day out, which Domingos can attest to. And those issues can't just be, oh, well, we'll talk about it later. Oh, it's a cookie cutter solution. No, we need bold, radical leaders to be here. And on the side note, I know this is not a normal conversation, but you guys are preaching truth. So I'm over here having my own little.
It's like having church.
Yeah.
We should have signs on this Zoom that says preach every time, I have to say this to you, Domingos. You are pretty involved in the community and you don't mind sharing how you feel at any given time. I think that's the thing that I admire most about you. What I do know about you as a leader, because see, at some point in time, you have to follow in order to become an effective leader. A lot of people say, oh, I'm not a follower. If you're not following somebody and you're trying to lead, it's like the blind leading the blind, because you're not a leader until you follow first. You have to look up to somebody. You have to see the generations that were before you in order to be effective. And your job is to service the community. I think a lot of times when people play politics, it's about their own agenda. And so I have Stacey K. Borden on the live that is saying, that the politicians want to line their pockets. That is a big thing. It's not, Domingos, I've seen you honestly come out of your pocket to help people in need. Again, a lot of times the Black and brown community doesn't know who actually is running for any seat, mayor, governor, and sometimes even president, until they get to the polls and they see a list of names. That does nothing for us.
Right.
It does nothing for us because we're not being true to ourselves and saying, who are these people really? And now at the last minute, you have to vote for them. I want everyone to know that there's two people on this live besides Domingos that are running for Boston City Council. We have Leon Rivera and Jacob. Can you pronounce your last name, Jacob? I don't want to butcher it.
Ureña.
Okay. He's running for District 4. He's running for District 7. I invited them to this live because I want you guys to look at these three young men. I'll even put this old man in it. These three young men, and know that they're all running for a seat in some district, except for Domingos, who's running for Boston City at large. At the end of the day, look at these people and know who you could potentially be voting for and putting into office and giving them a seat and giving them access to your life, to your children, to your community. That's the reason why I have you guys on this platform, because I want people to ask you questions. And Domingos, I have a big question for you about prison reform, incarceration.
Oh man.
I say this all the time. This is part of the reason why I have a platform, is because I'm formerly incarcerated. And I know how hard it is to come out of prison or jail and not have a place to go, not have food to eat. Your family's given up on you. The system has already failed you, or you've failed in some area of your life, and you're just trying to bring it all together. I've seen women leave South Bay and come back 24 hours later because they never left when they left out the front door. They're out there, they're getting high again. They're doing what they do because they don't have any other choice, or so they think. We feel like we don't have the options to do anything better. We have people who are actually, look, we were just talking about Sean Ellis. Sean Ellis is a prime example of how the system has failed us. Today, DA Rollins has decided to go against the Boston Police Department because she wants people to know that not on her watch. We need more people like that sitting in these seats who are going to say, I'd rather be morally right than to deal with corruption and lies and deceit and all of the things that don't make sense in the Black and brown community. We have them trying to build a prison in Roxbury. You can build another prison, but you can't build another school. You can cut programs in schools. You can cut staff that really are needed, counseling that's really needed. What do you plan to do? And how do you, this has been an issue before you decided to run for office, Domingos.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do to be able to put your arms around this and strangle it and take the life out of it? Because this is a big issue.
I'm gonna add a little bit of my personal life story, right? My father came to America in the early 70s. By the time 1981 came, he got into some serious trouble. I visited my dad with my family. We used to go down to Church's Chicken on Saturday mornings and get on the blue bus.
Right.
Right. And we used to get on that long ride upstate to go visit my dad. So, you know, at the age of 4, I was in and out of the state prisons.
Right.
I wasn't the one staying behind, but I was in and out visiting my father.
Right.
So that changed my mentality on, you know, how I wanted to live. I didn't want to hear those doors. You know, years later, visiting someone and I at Norfolk, I heard them doors close. It took me back to that 4 or 5-year-old. And
Right.
you know, the guard looks at me, he goes, "You okay?" It's like, man, it was a black guard. He was like, "You okay? You've been here before?" I
Right.
said, "I've been here not as an inmate, as a child visiting my father."
Right.
And he looked at me, he was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Yeah, some of us who come back to visit, we've been here as children.
Right.
And I want to change that,
Right.
not only for the children, but for the fathers and the mothers who come out of prison and don't have a place to start life over. Because there's no rehabilitation in prison. My dad was a cook. He had an opportunity to cook and earn money, pick up a trade because it was there.
Right.
As the state cuts those fundings, our families lose those trades.
Right.
So when I met someone like T. Michael Thomas, who's like, "Yo, Mingos, I got this brilliant idea
Right.
about bringing back trades in our community for our community," he didn't have to say much because I understood the value of giving that skill back to our men and women.
Right.
But it's not going to just change overnight, right?
Of course.
Because our education system is built for us to have a 3rd grade level reading, graduating high school. I can't get into the trades if I don't have a 10th grade level education. I have to pass the 10th grade to be able to get into one or two of these trades.
Right.
And I got to have a high school diploma for others.
Right.
So you have someone like T. Michaels who's gonna allow you to come into his space and learn a trade. And we're scratching that. We're not asking you about your Corey and certain aspects. There's
Right.
certain things you got to screen out, and there's certain things that you're going to allow because you want to rehabilitate people and give them an opportunity.
Right.
But it's not going to happen with the individuals that we have in any office.
Right.
You know, we have a good sheriff who's trying to do a little more, but it's going to take more than just the sheriff.
Right.
It's going to take, again, a DA like Rachel Rollins. It's going to take legislators like Russell Holmes and others who are trying to change the narrative. But we as a community have to get involved. So when we do have a Domingos or a Leon or a Jacob, we're able to come together financially along with the votes to put these individuals in places. So when we're in a setting and they ask us what's our opinion,
Right.
it kind of has a stamp to it, not a rubber stamp, but an actual stamp, because there's 20,000, 30,000 people behind that.
Right.
Who's gonna vote for the governor, who's gonna vote for the AG, who's gonna vote for the Secretary of State, versus what we've been doing year in, year out.
Now, I have a question from Stacy Borden. She says, we need to know their ideologies. What do you stand for? What's your belief system? How much have you been impacted by injustices? And how do you handle accountability? Don't vote because someone looks good or talks a good talk. I agree with that. So can you answer the question, like, what do you stand for? What's your belief system? How much have you been impacted by injustices in your own personal life? And how do you handle accountability? So say if you make these promises, you get elected and you're sitting in that seat, do you want the community to hold you accountable for the things that you promised at the beginning in your campaign? Or do you want to just say, hey, listen, it is what it is. Now I'm already in office and now I have my own agenda?
Well, I always say accountability starts with us.
Of course.
So for me, accountability goes a long way. I mean, my parents held me accountable, you know, as young as 4 or 5 years old.
Right.
So I understand, you know, like my mom used to say to me, sorry, didn't do it. You did it. You say it once, you say it twice, you can't say it a third time.
Right.
And for me, my morals, I'm a family man.
Yes.
I come from a deep-rooted family. My grandmother's 102 years old. I spend weekends with her. I make sure I go check in on her and bring her little. Now I'm giving her candy versus her giving me candy. My mom is 74 years old. I still take her trash out.
Right.
Because that's what a son's supposed to do for her mother,
Absolutely.
for his mother, right?
Right.
So my children are my world. The children around me are my world.
Right.
I feel that if I'm gonna build a community, I'm gonna build a community with the children around my children. I want to know my kids' friends.
Right.
So as they grow, we grow. I want to know their parents. I want to know my neighbors.
Right.
If my neighbor's son or daughter is sitting on the porch on a rainy day, I want to be able to, hey, let me call your mom and ask her if you can come in and watch a video. Because my neighbors did that for me.
Right.
My morals is what keeps me grounded. I'm a very grounded person.
Right.
You know, I don't live outside my means.
Right.
Because I try to stay humble. I don't need the elegant lifestyle.
Right.
I need to be transparent with tranquility, with love, because that's how I was raised.
Right.
I come from a family of 9. I have 9 siblings. I'm like the middle child.
Right.
And I've learned over the years, what one does affects all 9 of us.
True story. That's a community right there.
So I give it back.
Right.
You know, I ask for the same thing for my kids because that's what I was raised with.
Right.
But, you know, once I got in office, it'd be the same person from 25 years ago.
Right.
When I started doing community work as a kid. I started doing community work at DSN9 when they first came into the community. We had all empty lots. Okay. We had more clubhouses in Roxbury than houses because it was all empty lots from the 70s white flight. For folks that don't know Boston, I know Boston.
Yes.
And I took that upon myself because I went in and out of the state prisons visiting my father.
Right.
I understood that wasn't a lifestyle for me.
Right.
I went to BPS and got passed on like a baton, and having an immigrant mom, she would get mistreated because she didn't understand the language. So I got mistreated and dragged through the mud. They didn't give us IEPs back then.
Right.
They stuck you in the lab cluster, put you in the basement, and wish you didn't come to school.
Right. Right.
And I want to be that person that brings that back, has that conversation. That's why I'm here tonight.
Right.
An uncomfortable conversation that people want to forget. I'm not going to forget my childhood because you know why? It was the best part of my life. Right. Even though I was poor, one TV, I never knew it. I ate every day. I had a roof. I had clothes, and I had a loving family surrounding me. Right. That's what we need back in Boston. We don't need outsiders coming in. A year ago, a gentrifier told me they were mad because they were being gentrified. I said, you know, I giggled like you did. But the reality is, she is right. We got all these promises and no action plan. This is what brought me to this table to run for office as a BCYF employee. I spent 23 years as a city employee giving services to my community. I've been in every single school building in my city because that's what I was doing as a city staff. Right. I sat on the union table and negotiated contracts for 1,500 employees and understood why one department gets more than the other. But then the direct service individuals always get the short end of the stick, but we're the ones giving them services.
Of course.
So for me, being able to become a city councilor, it's not just a title. It's for that kid standing on the corner of Dudley Street with no ambition and has no vision because they take it away from us in our school system. They don't tell us we come from kings and pharaohs. By the time I got to become a senior, my guidance counselor told me I had 2 options, military or prison.
Wow.
At a trade school.
Wow.
With 30 plus trades.
Domingos, there's someone that's on the panel right now. Sharon, can you take yourself off mute? She's had her hand up, and then Leon, you next. But Sharon, do you have a question for Domingos, or do you have a comment?
I have a comment for all these 3 brothers that are running for office. I am amazed. I am so happy. We keep asking the men to stand up, and these 3 men, Father Jacob, Domingos DaRosa, and Leon Rivera, are bringing the heat. And I love it. I love it, love it, love it. We keep asking for new blood, and they're bringing it, and they're actually supporting each other. and working and helping each other in the community. They're on the ground and they're doing what needs to happen. T. Michael Thomas with the People's Academy is doing it. Stacey Borden, that's my sis. That is my sister from another mister.
Yes,
She
she's
is
awesome.
doing the work.
I wish she
And-
would have joined us tonight because she has a lot to say too. I wish she's on the live, but I wish she would have chimed in. Yes, I agree.
Oh my God. And Andrea James, who's a big sister, both of us, who is seeking to free 100 women in the first 100 days of the President Joe Biden, who, let's face it, would not be in office without Black and brown people. Let's keep it real. Stacey Abrams, let's channel that spirit. So, you know, I know that these brothers are doing what needs to happen. I am double zooming. I was on here before and I had to drop out, and I'm not going to be able to stay because I'm actually testifying with the Boston School Committee. Domingos and I were at the budget meeting earlier. And so these brothers are on the ground. I appreciate you, sis, Queen, absolutely, for providing this platform, because as you know, broadcast media doesn't want us to tell the truth because we're not selling commercials. We're not sitting up here making money. And these brothers putting their lives, their families out there, because it is a considerable commitment to put yourself out there, to have people just look for that pound of flesh because they'll find faults. These are men that are human. And so rather than sitting there, and I know, you know, what people do, they sit there and they make excuses about why they're not registered to vote, why they don't vote.
Yes.
Time is off for that. There's stuff that is happening now with this budget. There was a budget hearing about the school committee earlier. There is now decisions. Brother Kamani James, a young brother who's 17, who stepped away and resigned as a Boston School Committee rep, and also the BSAC, Boston Student Advisory Committee leader, stepped away from that. He just had a testimony that was fire. I mean, it was calling people to account. And a lot of times we're asking people to have those difficult conversations, but when those people bring difficult conversations, we can't handle it. Just like the movie said, you can't handle the truth. You want the truth, but you can't handle the truth.
Absolutely, absolutely, Sharon. I am on board with everything that you're saying. Let me be as transparent as I can. My platform is for anybody who has something to say about the people who don't want to talk about it. I believe that a lot of times, especially in the Black and brown community, we're faced with a lot of challenges as it is just in the world. But within our community, we're stuck because we're still listening to the past tense of, well, your vote doesn't matter. You don't count. You should still be in poverty. You stay over there in the corner. It's time for us to come out of the corner. And if we're going to vote for somebody, let's know the people that are potential candidates for us to vote for. I don't want this to be a last minute thing where our people are showing up at the polls and they don't know anybody but maybe Domingos DaRosa, because he has a big mouth. That's what I love about him. He doesn't even need a bullhorn. He's going to say what he has to say. And if you don't like it, that is okay, because he's not playing politics. He's compassionate and passionate about the community that he lives in. And there is nothing wrong with that. We need to stop being afraid to show who we are as a culture, as a community. And if we're going to vote for somebody, let's vote for somebody because we know that they can get the job done. Not because their name sounds Black, because we've seen them one time, because maybe they did something nice for our community one time and then that was it. We can't take our knees off the backs of people who came before them who only wanted to play politics. It's time for us to show up and show out. I'm tired of seeing like the Charlie Bakers. I don't care. He's not somebody that I would invite to my platform because, again, everyone wants to play politics. I don't want to play with you. I'm a formerly incarcerated woman who has spent a lot of time on the inside. It's just as corrupt on the inside as it is on the outside. And there's a lot of people sitting in prisons that don't need to be sitting in there. Build more programs, build more housing, do something different, because what you're doing right now makes no sense. People go, unless you give people a life sentence, they're coming out of those prisons. And what are you giving them that they can hold on to for a better future?
That's right. That's right. And I love it. And you said, what is it? Not a comfortable conversation. Wait a minute. What is it? What is the name of your
normal conversation?
Not
These are
normal conversation.
Right.
So let me bring it, because you know, people. I'm with this group of brothers because I do the same thing.
Right.
So prayers and everything to the Asian women that lost their life. And there was a white woman and a white guy who got killed too.
Right.
By a white male. Let's be serious.
Right.
They did it in Atlanta, which most people know is a Black Mecca. And until they came up with that picture of that white boy, I know some people saying, oh my, I was saying, I'll take it. I was saying, oh, please don't let this be a black man. Because I know what the backlash is in
Yes.
the black community when they think it's one of us that did it. It's not one of us, and let's be clear, the picture that they had when they, see, now I'm getting excited like you, when they arrested this, when they
Okay.
arrested this, when they arrested this white boy, he was already in a bulletproof vest. And they didn't gun him down, shoot him down, but they know he already killed, yeah, he already killed, he went to 3 different massage parlors and killed these people.
Right.
So they can come in and not be beat up, not be, they can get taken for a cheeseburger and stuff, and they can show up alive. I mean, let's be clear, the white boy that killed all those people, shot 13 people at Mother Emanuel Church is still alive.
Yes.
Okay, George Zimmerman is still alive. But
Yes.
you see black people just going about their life and they're dead. Just, I'm reaching for my wallet, boom, boom, boom. I was afraid for my life. So that is still happening and that is still going on. And while we're gonna have that conversation. While I really feel pain, I have Filipinos, I have Chinese people, I have Japanese people, I have Cambodians in my family. They have not always been with us. Now I know I watched on Saturday. Domingos was out there supporting the Asian community as he would and as he shall.
Right.
And Leon was there in spirit, but Father Jacob was there. I saw them. They were out there speaking, holding signs and everything, as we should when anybody is being murdered in this country. However, let's keep it real. There was a cop, there was an Asian that was holding down George Floyd when that white man was murdering him. There have been Asians that have been, let's talk about the Korean woman, it was years ago, that shot one of our young girls in the head when she accused her of stealing some stuff. How many people have gone into stores that are in our neighborhood that are run by people from the Asian community that then they look at us like, they're the colonizers, man. They're not giving back to our communities. Right. They're not supporting our football teams. They're not supporting, they're coming in here. And I'm not saying they and us, because it's really all of us, right? That's what the colonizer does. That's what white supremacy does. So it's not they and us, it's all of us. But let's be real. The way some people of color are treating other people of color, the Asian, Chinese and Asian parents are talking about Black kids and Black parents around this exam school thing is just as racist as if somebody was with a hood with a burning cross. So we need to have these conversations where and everybody is not like that, okay? So I'm not saying we're all doing that, we're all against each other. I'm saying the system is pitting us against each other for the same crumbs instead of going for the loaf that all of us are working and dying for. So we're gonna have them conversations and call some of our people. It's like, yo, you want me to stand next to you now because 6 of you all have been murdered, but where was you when we were getting killed? Where were you? Where were you when you should have been checking your community when they were killing us too?
But all lives don't matter until Black lives matter.
Come on, sis.
So until that happens, this will continue to be a great division. And this is why I say to people like Father Jacob, to people like Mr. Thomas, to people like Domingos DaRosa, who is very vocal about the things that are happening in the community that should not be happening. It's time for us to stand up. Let's stop taking a seat. Let's be like Rosa Parks and get on the bus and sit in the front where we belong. That's where we belong.
But I'd rather be like Harriet Tubman. It's like you can stay on the plantation if you want to, but I's gonna be free.
Amen. Amen. And so now I see Miss and Sharon, thank you for your input. Leon, I see you with your hand up. Are you still with us?
I just want to add a little bit about what Saturday's event was about, and stop stop Asian hate. It was a nationwide movement on Saturday that the Asian American community was looking for support. I have relatives who their mothers are Asian,
right?
And for me to support them, I had to be there.
Right.
For me to support my neighbors, I had to be there. My neighbors are Asian. I have a few neighbors who are Asian, and we talk about a whole bunch of stuff. And this is one of the conversations. Yo, how come you don't like Black people? Huh? I said, why is that? And he's like, not me. My grandfather.
Right.
Because they made us dislike you guys. I'm like, what are you talking about? My grandfather would tell us the same thing my father would tell me. And I was like, that must be a norm that everyone tells their children, don't bring a Black friend home.
But that's
I didn't understand that as a kid.
But that's just like every Black parent saying that their kids shouldn't trust anybody because we honestly don't know who to trust. It's time for that. type of narrative to change. It's
You
time.
got to have those conversations.
Right. And
It
that's,
has to start somewhere.
and it has to start with us, honestly. And this is why I bring you guys to this platform, because I need people to see who you are, see what you stand for, watch how you work before they go out and vote in September. It is imperative that we do this. Leon has a question. Leon, can you take yourself off mute? I'm sorry about that.
No worries. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. I just wanted to give a quick background on, how I know Domingos, how I met Domingos. I've been friends with Domingos for a little over 5 years now. I met him by Clifford Park when that park was started to get, filled up with a bunch of needles and a bunch of feces and all this stuff. And that time till now, Domingos has been consistent with, every water in our BPS schools to holding, elected officials accountable.
Right.
Because I've been officials accountable regardless of their color.
Right.
And that's something that we do here in Boston. We give a lot of our people a pass,
Right.
even when they're not doing their job. So, I see Domingos and thinking of him, in that space, this is why we're running, because we're tired of the regular politics, Again, we're not talking about packages or, we're talking about our children being exposed to discarded needles, poor education.
Yes.
Right now, for example, our schools are crumbling and we're getting ready to return our kids to school.
Right.
And we don't even have proper ventilation for that. So, and those are conversations that unfortunately, a lot of elected officials now don't want to have. But again, these are our children, these are our families, these are our environments, and I'm just proud to see him here. And again, I know Stacey had asked earlier, like, hey, what are your beliefs? I've seen Domingos, like I tell you, from a little over 5 years ago. He hasn't changed. And you probably can agree with me, he's been consistent with the messaging, his platform, new issues that arise. Like every year we get some new issues out here, and he's always on the side of the people. So I'm excited to see him here. I'm excited to run as well, because I believe it is up to us to be the change that we want to see in our communities.
Absolutely.
I know Domingos is frustrated as well. We've sat for the past year with almost every elected official in Boston in regards to, public safety,
right.
Homelessness, the opioids, and we're just tired of it. So again, kudos to you, D, and Jacob as well. Jacob has jumped on as well, and, he's running in Mattapan.
Yes.
But it's beautiful to see the connection that we all have, because we might have different point of views on certain things, but we all have that common ground where it's we want better for all of us, for all of us in the community. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
And Leon, I appreciate that. I didn't know that.
I love your energy. This is great programming.
Thank you. You know what I have to say to you, Leon? I apologize. I didn't know you were running for District 7. And let me be honest, and this is another thing, I don't even know where District 7 is. And this is why it's time for us to get educated. A lot of people won't admit that they don't know where District 7 is. I don't.
And that's part of our platform.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's part of
You're breaking up, Lee.
I can't hear him.
So that's a part of the platform.
Right.
Educate the community and let them understand that you actually have 5 counselors per district.
Right.
You have 4 at large.
Our community elected officials fought because
you're breaking up, Leon, if you can hear us.
I think he's on mute there. I think he's on mute. Father Jacob, you have a question. And by the way, Jacob, how old are you?
If you think about it, I usually we talk about election time, Can you guys hear me now?
Years.
Okay. Father Jacob, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What were you saying?
I said I knew the question was on its way. I'm 23 years young.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, young man, for taking the time out of your life to run for District 4. As I told Nakia Jean Charles, who's only 18 years old, running for a seat in Boston City Council. When I see people like Domingos, when I see people like you, when I see people like Leon running for these seats, I immediately think of your parents, because I know that everything starts in the home and what you see from your elders, and then there it progresses. So I'm going to shout your parents out and say thank you for what they gave you so that you can pass this on in your community into the next generation. I know Domingos is Cape Verdean, so I know his parents came over here and he came over at a young age. And for him to be fighting for his community, I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, how is this his community? He is the community. I'm the community. Mr. Thomas is the community. Jacob is the community. And even if you guys don't get seats in this office, I pray to God that you still come together and do community work, because it doesn't stop just because you don't get the seat this time around. We have to keep going to build a better community for Black and brown people. It doesn't mean build more prisons. It means build each other up so that we can't be torn down so easily, because this is our biggest problem. Because of slavery and all the other things that came before us, we retreat way too easily, or we come out swinging because we've been taught to fight. Let's use something different to fight. Let's use people like Domingos to fight our battles. Let's come together and use people like Father Jacob, or use people like Mr. Thomas who can get you into a trade, or use people like Sharon who, if you want to ask a question and you don't know how to go about it, then you can get her, write it down and send it to her and say, hey, can you ask this at your next meeting? We have to come together and do something different. Let's stop whispering at our kitchen table or having pillow talk with our fiance or our husband or our boyfriend about what we think about the candidates. Because to be honest with you, Domingo DaRosa actually does have my vote, because I've been watching him in the thick of the community. I've watched him go on his live and exchange at the needle exchange and show people the way that the people that are getting their methadone are being treated, and how they don't care about us, and how some people don't always want to be on methadone, but it's their last hope to become clean. He went, traded needles. He went back up as the same person and traded. They weren't supposed to give him more needles. They gave it to him anyways. He said, watch this, you guys. And he said, can I get another one? Which means that he had already been there prior, but the guy didn't care. He wanted him out of his face. So he gave him some more needles, which he was not supposed to do. I was flabbergasted that this was happening.
The system's broken.
Yep.
The needle exchange is broken. It's a 1991 city ordinance that needs to be revisited and rewritten to accommodate today's needs. There's no way in the world that these individuals are allowed to give out thousands of needles, and on the back end of it, there's no exchange. I understand that you're trying to help keep, the levels of transmitted disease low, but those levels are going up.
Right.
The amount of overdoses are going up.
Yes.
Everything that's being done in the city of Boston around mass and cash does not work. We have the
Can I say something that's very important?
Sure, Mr. Thomas, go ahead.
Folks to focus on Domingos DaRosa for City Council at large. Like I was saying earlier on, and it's very important, we have had over $8+ billion in new construction the last 15 years.
Yes.
We have one candidate that has stood up, because the construction industry is the key to the middle class. When you have individuals that are coming from New Hampshire, Maine, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and people right here are not working, making over $30+ an hour.
Right.
But here's a candidate and more that will stand and make sure, instead of your kids going to prison and turning to the streets, fight for you to get those high-paying jobs with those good wages. Think about that, folks. Who is ever listening? If you want a reason, think about who has fought for you from all that money to now. Here is candidates. Now there's 3 that will fight for those things for you. The last thing I will say, Sister Queen, I would like to talk to you off script.
Okay. You can message me. It's fine. I'm very accessible. Ask Domingo. Sometimes I call him 5 o'clock in the morning thinking he's gonna pick up. The early bird catches the worm. Hey, I'm with it.
I will have him send you your send me
I'll do
your
a group text.
information.
He can
I'll do
send
a group text.
Yes, he can send you my information. But I see that Father Jacob has his hand up. But come on, youngin, come on and tell us what you're talking about.
No, I was just going to recap from Domingos and my appearance at the Stop Asian Hate rally on Saturday. It was very refreshing. A lot of the points that Sharon highlighted earlier, many of the organizers there highlighted as well. This rally was led by an 18-year-old organizer, college student from Harvard.
Right.
And when they were sharing their words, they spoke to the Asian American crowd and said, "Hey, we have had a history of aligning with the wrong people. We do not have white privilege. We need to align with our Black and brown brothers and sisters." And they even made a notion to bring up Breonna Taylor's anniversary because they said enough is enough. We need to stop this conversation that we have white privilege when we are ourselves are also second-class citizens who are pushed aside by those people in power. And so we have a young shift going on here. We have a shift. We have an opportunity in Boston to really direct the city in a very wholesome, direct political avenue.
Right.
But it's going to take taking those gatekeepers out of the way, taking those people who don't want these change, who have been in power for 20, 30 years, that they might look like me and you. They might be Black and brown as well.
Right.
And they themselves might be gatekeepers. And we have to understand as a people that we do not ask for freedom from our oppressors. The only freedom our oppressors know is the freedom that they get by oppressing others. We need a new type of freedom. And that means building an entirely new table. And that's what Domingos and all of us are really trying to do. We don't want a seat at the table. That table is corrupt. It's been corrupt 20, 30, 40 years.
You better build your own table. This guy right here does construction. He can build the table, him and Mr. Thomas, build some chairs, and you guys come and take a seat. Just make sure you invite me because I want to eat too. Hello. That's it. That's just it.
That's what we need to do. That is the reality of where Boston is going, and it's going to take those bold, unapologetic people. That's why people used to tell me, Domingos, you have to be careful the way he talks. No, go ahead, Domingos, speak even louder. Let me get you 2, 3 bullhorns so the people in the back can hear you.
He doesn't need a bullhorn.
They're not listening. So
they're listening. They're listening. They're just picking up on the negative because initially the reason why I reached out to him was because of the fact that this thing had happened at Charlie Baker's house. And I'm not going to lie, I thought it was genius of him to do this. And I thought it was funny because I was like, the nerve of this guy, and I have to get him on the show because I need to know who would be bold enough besides me, if I wasn't on paper, to do what he did. That was a bold move, but it was also speaking volumes to the lack of understanding that the governor and his wife has for the demonstration that was led by Domingos to say, I'm not trying to harm you, but what is happening in our community is harming our children. And I'm just showing you what they see. I'm not here to harm you. I actually put these orange cones up, which means stop, which means alert, which means there's something going on to let you know, don't come past those cones because there is something here that could harm you. Our kids don't have that. We go into a park with our kids, right? We go into a park with our kids, and then some of the kids end up getting pricked by needles that have been used. And this is what we have to deal with. So, Charlie Baker, I don't have any sympathy for the fact that this guy showed up on your door, and the Boston police told him it was okay to put him down as long as the cones were there, and then he gets the stay away order. Isn't that something?
Well, we don't have 12 state police officers.
Yeah, go ahead, Domingos.
We don't have 12 state police officers. We don't have a detail in front of our house. There was an array of reasons why, the group decided it was a group activity, right? We was demonstrating our First Amendment rights as a group.
Right.
Again, I do antagonize our, mayor
I know.
and the governor, because, these are the people who are empowered to make, as quick as he swift his pen, we turned the convention center into a makeshift hospital. As quick as he swift his pen, we did that across the state of Massachusetts to deal with the COVID pandemic.
Right.
This opioid pandemic is a national, it's a city, state, and national pandemic. It's not just a Boston issue.
Right.
Our neighbors in Lowell are dying by the drones. Homelessness in the Merrimack Valley has created the Merrimack Valley as a dumping ground for needles, along with other things. They just pulled the body out of the river a few days ago of a Black man who was being, I guess, chased by police officers, and he jumped into the river. They said he jumped into the river. Some folks says he didn't jump into the river. Right. So, that's another conversation. But the real reality is, big bank takes little bank. And as a politician, the ones who raise the funds, and if you track the money, you'll see whose agenda they really backing.
Right.
I refuse to take my neighbor's money, knowing she has 3 children, going through a pandemic. I refuse to take money from an elder who needs it to get by for the week. But I will ask you for a share. I will ask you for a like. I will ask you for a repost. Because for me, I'm using what's available to us
Right.
that we can be intuitive. There's too much technology in front of us to take away one piece and not add to the other.
Absolutely.
I wasn't allowed into a forum because I didn't have $10,000 in my bank account at Office of Finance and Campaigning.
Wow.
I get attacked by a white lady during a forum, and then I get an invite to the next one.
Again, everybody, it's time for us to look at the people on this panel, the 3 young men that are on this panel that are running for Boston City Council, District 4, District 7, and Boston City Council at large. This won't be the last time you see these 3 men on my platform, but more importantly, it won't be the last time you see Domingos on this platform. I believe that like presidents have debates, I think that Boston City Councilmen should have debates too, where we come in and we ask questions so that we can be informed about what your agenda is. Nothing should be hidden, and then we can make the right decision for the community, not just me, not just you, but for everybody, because it's going to work for everybody. So Domingos, I thank you for sharing your voice. I thank you for the community work that you do. I thank you for having a big mouth. I'm not even going to front and act like I'm not. I thank you for that, because without that, I think that our greatest challenge would be that people don't speak loud enough and people don't speak up enough for the things that need to happen for Black and brown people to finally come out on top and start winning. Because the reason why we're not winning is because I don't think we're using the right weapons. I don't think that we're equipped with the right weapons. And I think that if we vote for somebody like you, or somebody like Father Jacob, or somebody like Leon, or somebody like Nakia Jean Charles, or Joel Richards, we have a chance to come out on top. Finally, it's about time. It's our time. It's our time to shine. It's our time to grow, and it's our time to glow. It's our time.
It definitely is. And the greatest thing about democracy is the fact that we can continue to grow, right? It's our choice.
Yes.
We can get involved because it's our choice.
Yes.
But in our community, we're not pulling up the next generation with us.
Absolutely.
My 22-year-old can care less about politics.
Yes.
He's more interested on how many likes he gets on YouTube.
Yeah.
When's the next, PlayStation 59 is coming out.
Right.
And we have to change that.
We have to educate our children. Yes. Yes.
We need civics in our classrooms.
Yes.
We need certain things to be put.
Yes.
My kids go to school in Concord. They have civics.
But see, that's the problem.
They have a student body.
But that's the problem, Domingos. Why does your kids have to be bused to Concord to get a proper education? Why isn't there a school in your district that has the books and the teachers and access to counseling and all those?
You sound like me right now.
So why do I went to MECO growing up until I got kicked out, but why did I have to go to MECO and be bused out to a school in Cohasset, which was a couple of towns over from where I actually lived, to get a good education? And why was it that it was just like maybe 10? So all Black people don't deserve to have a good education. We got to have a lottery to see who goes to Newton High or Newton North, or who goes to Cohasset High School. Like, how does this system work? It is failing us, and we're allowing that to happen by not speaking to the people who we're trying to vote in and elect in office. That's all I'm saying, because I guarantee you, Domingos, if you did what you did at Charlie Baker's house, at DA Rollins' house, she would have been about that life. But I promise you, you wouldn't have gotten enough people to say that that was the wrong thing for you to do, because she's also a woman, she's a minority, and she's a progressive DA. So no one would have been saying anything about if you did that in front of her house. So again, I say this, it's time for us to stand up and stop sitting on our hands, or going like this, and then, or going like this, or going like this.
See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil.
It's just not going to work anymore. I thank you all for joining us on this platform tonight. Domingos DaRosa is running for Boston City Council, City at Large. Father Jacob is running for District 4. Leon Rivera is running for District 7. And all of these guys have a campaign. If they have websites, please, you guys post the website on the live right now so that people can know how to reach out to you. Because again, if you're saying you don't mind accountability and you have this campaign that says you're going to do X, Y, and Z, expect somebody like me to hold you accountable to what you said. And if you can't do it, let us know why it's not happening, because I know there's plenty of roadblocks. There's going to be plenty of other people that are higher up that are going to try to block what you're doing because they still don't want us to succeed, because you're right, it's all about money. That's what it's always been about. So I thank you guys for being on this platform. Domingos, I'll see you very soon. Father
Thanks
Jacob,
for having me. This was
always,
awesome.
always. Father Jacob, I look forward to having you on the platform to share your campaign with us. Leon Rivera, please join me on my platform to share your campaign with us so that we can know who you are, what you stand for, where you come from, what you eat for dinner, how you fry or bake your steak. Yeah,
I got it. I got it.
We want to know all of that, because you know what? It's time for us to know you and be transparent, because that's just what it is.
Hey, come have dinner. Come have dinner with us on the Mile on Friday nights, 5:30. We'll be down there. We'll actually be down there a few days this week. The weather's breaking, so we're trying to get people into real services. We want to make sure that people get connected. For folks that don't know, Shattuck Hospital will be moving to BMC in the next 3 years. They're working on the building now. That construction you see going on now at the old state building is actually going to be the new Shattuck Hospital. They're opening 2024 for folks that don't know. This is why we got to get involved, because they're taking our community from under us. And the folks who are sitting in office are just listening to the conversation, not even speaking up.
You know, I have one funny thing to end with before we adjourn for the night. So you know how when Charlie Baker does his update in the afternoons, and you know, there's a person doing sign language up there or whatever. I wish there was someone up there telling us something different and not what the heck he's talking about, because I just feel like I just am not even, if I just want to see something different.
So you saying you want him to speak in sign language and her tell us something different?
Right, something. Let something be different. I just keep hearing the same blah, blah, blah. And I don't see enough things happening. I see that, you know, communities are starting to open back up. While this pandemic hasn't slowed down one bit, there's another variant. But of course, Charlie Baker did vote for Donald Trump. And so he is about the almighty dollar. So him opening up is not about keeping us safe. He doesn't care if we die or not. He wants our money. That's what he's on board with. So we have to get it together and stop supporting communities that are not supporting us. Stop supporting people that are not supporting you. Stop supporting people that you can't sit down and break bread with. If you can't be invited to the cookout, don't vote for them. That's just all I have to say. Just don't vote for them. If you can't be invited to sit down at the table and dine with them and break bread with them and talk to them and be transparent with them,
I'll be on the grill.
Exactly.
I'll be on the grill.
Because they're not about community. They're about politics and they're about money. And our Black and brown communities, we need more money in the community so that we can survive and thrive.
$8 versus 276.
Yes.
And we got 2.2 billion in I mean, I can go on and on and on and on.
We know. We know. I'm going to let you guys go. I thank you for joining Not Your Normal Conversation. I thank you for your comments. Stacey Borden, shout out to Stacey Borden. Shout out to Andrea James. Shout out to Wayne Lane. Shout out to everybody that is trying to make a difference in the community. Jamal Williams. There's a lot of people, Black businesses that are trying to make a difference in the community any way that they can. And just to let you guys know, I plan to do a Mother's Day brunch for, I know that, you know, we're in the midst of COVID, but I would like to do something where we can be on Zoom, where we can appreciate the women who are in domestic violence shelters, that can show them success stories, that can make them see something different. Maybe we can have lunch delivered to their places and some flowers delivered to them while we're sharing our strength and hope with them, because it's a time of healing for our community. So I'm trying to look into what shelters I would have involved in this and how I can make it work during the pandemic. But I think it's time we start appreciating and loving on our people, because we need that. We need mouth-to-mouth resuscitation so that we can come back to life finally. Again, you guys, I thank you for joining Not Your Normal Conversation. I hope to see you next week for our next show. Everybody stay blessed, stay safe. I thank you guys for being on this platform, and everybody have a blessed evening.
Good night. Talk to you later.
So Domingos, shout me out.